Welcome back. I hope you're enjoying the class. I see some of you participating in the mailing list. I'd really appreciate more of you start being active on the mailing list, ask questions, attend live sessions, interact with the TAs, take up some projects, and try it out yourself. What we're going to cover in this module is robustness. Robustness is a super important topic in the AI safety domain. So let's see what robustness is. We'll see what robustness is, different terminologies that are connected to robustness. Later part of the module, we will actually see different methods, how to enhance robustness, creating different data sets, all of that. Some definition of robustness is to model to maintain the performance when faced with uncertainties or adversarial conditions. This model is whatever the language model we are talking about, vision model, all of that. Model to maintain performance when faced with uncertainties. So we'll actually delve detail into what are these uncertainties, how to measure these uncertainties, some definitions of these uncertainties, all of that. Model should generalize well and provide reliable predictions. It should not be that because of some uncertain conditions or adversarial conditions, my predictions should change. That should not happen, right? That's the idea for robustness. Handling noisy data, distribution shift, and adversarial conditions. So we'll actually see the definition of distribution shift, what are the different types of distribution shifts, how do actually these distribution shifts play a role in identifying or having more robustness or affecting the model performance also. Okay, robustness, taking care of uncertainties and adversarial conditions, taking care of noisy data, the prediction should be maintained. What are the things that we will see a bit now is transition from AI risk to robustness to risk decomposition. We actually talked about risk decomposition in earlier modules. We'll look at what is black swans, what is distribution shifts, and methods to deal with distribution shifts and black swans. That's what we are going to do now for the rest of the parts of the module. I'm sure you know what a black swan is. How many of you read this book? If you've read this book, I'm sure you understand what a black swan is, when does it occur, all of that. Black swans, Longtail Distributions, Mediocristan, and Extremistan is something that we look at. Unknown unknowns. This is what we look at in this sub-module of black swans. What is a black swan? Black swan is events that are outliers, lying outside typical expectations, and often carry extreme impact. That's the one that's of interest, right? So this is outlier, outside typical expectations, and extreme impact. The keywords are that. Black swans, outliers, outside typical expectations, and extreme impact. Why did this word black swan become more popular, and what happened was Europeans widely assumed that swans are usually white, and suddenly they saw one of the explorers found that, oh, swans can actually be black also. Something surprised them, and particularly they saw black colored swans in Australia, and that's why this idea of outlier, unexpected events is connected to black swans, because they did not know that swans were also black. While often ignored as outliers, black swans are costly to ignore since these events often matter the most, because it will have effect on the, we'll see some examples, it will have an effect on the real world scenario, day-to-day life, the model that you're building, all of that, if you miss the black swan. Here are some examples. Particularly, I put this slide because this is something we saw earlier also. The example of autonomous car sitting a dog, not able to make decisions while some animal or something is crossing, all of that, right? Situations that the autonomous cars did not see before. Some examples here are black swans. If you see, here are some examples, which is black swans which are having some conditions which are hard to actually find, right? They would not have seen, let's take pigeons on the street. Here if you see, it's a green signal, but there is a fire engine that is on the street, so the car should not move. Very diverse, and snow conditions, smog conditions, all of that. Somebody riding a horse on the road. This one is a person, a car parked on the road, which is not of actually normal car or a van, right? A green signal is here, but there are some objects here also on the street. All of these are conditions that the autonomous cars would not have seen before. If you think about more examples of black swans, tilted, occluded by lights, etc., these are some examples you can connect to the last slide also. A stop sign, which is, it could be actually, again, tilted, occluded, some parts could be cut, some parts could be broken. The lighting can be different on this stop sign. All of these differences makes it a black swan for an autonomous car, for it to make a decision. The financial crisis was actually a black swan, right? In 2008, Lehman Brothers, all of these crises was happening in 2008. Unfortunately, that's the time around I actually was graduating with my PhD, so it was actually a super interesting, annoying or experience that we were going through. Actually, some of my friends were actually going through a much more tougher time in terms of graduating during that period. So 2008 financial crisis is a black swan. Of course, COVID is also a black swan, unexpected. Nobody thought that we would be all at home, not able to travel, not able to move around, not able to even interact with people next door for many months and years together. Black swans, unexpected events, but has a larger impact. All of these, if you see, examples have had large impact in the society, financial crisis and COVID kind of black swans. Another idea that is connected to black swan that we need to understand is this called long-tail distribution. Here is a pictorial example of long-tail distribution. A tail of distribution is this is the region that is far from the head or the center of the distribution. This is, if you just think about this as a head, if you think about this as the head, this is the long tail here. And the important thing that you want to keep in mind is that tail tapers off gradually rather than drop off sharply. Idea called a Pareto principle also, or 80-20 principle is also connected here, which is 20% of the values are actually loaded in the, 80% of the values are actually loaded in the 20% of the x-axis here. I'll show you multiple examples where this long tail distribution plays a role, but for now the idea is long tail tapers off in a way that it gradually tapers off, not sharply, and there is a head and the tail in the graph. Now let's look at this idea called power law distribution, which is also called a scale-free network. In this example, we have this data for internet websites connections. web approximate degree distribution. Degree is the number of edges that they're connected to, number of websites that they may be connected to, number of nodes is number of websites, right? So if you look at this, there are large number of websites with small number of edges, right? Some things like that. Right? Let's take, if you were to look at 100,000, many websites will have 1,000 websites connected to them, hyperlink. For now, let's take this extra hyperlink to them. Right? Large number of websites have small number of edges. If you keep going on the x-axis, which is where the number of edges to them are increasing, this is 10,000. If you look at 10,000, it may be very small. For example, IIT Madras website may have large number of web pages connected to them. Many people updating their profile with the IIT Madras web page link, department link, all of that. Maybe here. This could be somebody's personal website that they have, and that personal website is linked to only few websites. And if you extend the degree more, which is, let's take let's take Prime Minister's website or something like that, which may have the degree may be even more higher. The number of websites that are with this degree is much smaller. Right? That's the long tail here. Hope that gives you a sense of what a power law distribution is and scale-free network is. Let's move on. Here are more examples for long tail distributions. Let me walk you through some examples. Here is word frequency. Take the number of words in the dictionary and see how many times the words are being used. There will be a small set of words that are very repeatedly used. Large number of times are being used. There are small set of words which have been very highly used. Both ways, right? Some words we don't even use in the dictionary. Some words that we don't use in the when we speak, whereas some words that we use very frequently. If you take every word that has been uttered, the graph will be a power law distribution or a long tail distribution. Again, citations of a paper, web hits we just saw. Let's take population of a city, name frequency, net worth in US dollars, earthquake magnitude, books sold. Meaning this power law distribution is so common. The example is not here. If you think about the number of followers in Twitter is also a power law distribution if you think about it. Right, number of followers, number of likes, many of these metrics that the social media has, it's all power law. If you draw the graph of let's take number of followers on one side and proportion of people who have those many followers, you will see that there are only it's a long tail again, where there are a small set of people who would have large followers and a large a number of people who have a small set of followers. I hope that makes sense. Again, just emphasizing this point that long tails are pervasive. 0.1 drugs. Until now, this is more in a graphical way that we have presented. If you look at it, 0.1% of drugs generate 50% of pharmaceutical industry sales. There's even statistics that shows that 20% of the employees in a company actually do majority of the 80% of the work. Also, 0.2% of books accounts for 50% of their sales. 1% of bands and solo artists earn 77% of all revenues from recorded music. Right? Interesting statistics, right? That small proportion is what we are talking about. which is at the end of the long tail curve. The results, so if you think about why this long tail is happening and how this long tail has an effect, it's because of this one idea of nonlinear interactions. Right, these features that we're talking about are actually are independent, and they have nonlinear interactions between them. I'll tell you what that means. So essentially, if you look at the result of a long tail graph, it would be a thin tail Gaussian if the variables were added instead of multiplied. This is the idea of nonlinear interactions. The multiplicative factor brings in the nonlinearity compared to an additive factor. Nonlinear interactions arise when parts are connected or not independent. If the observation becomes zero when the part becomes zero. I'll tell you again an example later. If you look at it here, research output for any professor or a student, if you see, it is nonlinear interactions of ideas, time, students, and resources. This is probably a research output of a faculty, let's say. So this nonlinear interaction only makes it a long tail. And because of this multiplicative factor, you can imagine that the number of ideas that I'm generating with the number of times that I'm putting into the research and the number of students that I have and the resources that I have at my disposal defines the output of research that I will produce. Any of them being lesser will have an effect. Let's take if I have great ideas, large amount of time that I'm able to spend, I have resources, but I have less number of students, it's going to actually make it smaller. Let's move on. That's the nonlinearity. So this idea of Mediocristan and Extremistan is probably useful to understand that the effect of all these robustness that we are going to be talking about, what is the connection to long tails, and I'll also introduce this idea of unknown unknowns, which will also be connected to this long tail discussion or a black swan discussion. Very quickly, Mediocristan is thin tail, totally is determined by many small events. If you just compare it to Extremistan is a long tail discussion that we had until now. Total is determined by a few large events. Right? The small set of large events that happen, total is determined by a few large events, right? Lehman Brothers, one event happens, it has a lot of effect. A typical member in this category would be a mediocre or average. In this typical member would be a giant or a dwarf. Can be a huge person or a small, very, very small person. Tyranny of collective. Tyranny is the curse of the collective. Here is the tyranny of accidental. COVID is an accidental thing. Top few get small slice. Easy to predict, impact, non-scalable, mild randomness. This is opposite to that. Introducing this idea of Mediocristan and Extremistan, which is connected to this idea of long tail and black swan. Unknown unknown, as I said, let's look at this idea of unknown unknown. So to look at this, let's look at this quadrant of known and unknowns. Known knowns, things we are aware of and understand, we know what we know. Facts and requirements and recollection. So known knowns could be like, I want to recollect my date of birth, or city that I was born. I want to know some student's name that I've met before. Right? Known knowns. Unknown knowns. So this is what I did now. Unknown knowns, things we understand but are not aware of. Right? We don't know that, we know, we can know. Unconnected facts, tacit knowledge, self-analysis. So this is a category where we understand, but we are not aware of. Next, let's look at known unknowns, things we are aware of, but don't understand. I mean, I'm sure there are so many scientific discoveries that I'm aware of, but I really don't know the details, right? I don't understand what those discoveries are. We know that we do not know these. I don't know, sort of say, flying a plane. Known classic risks, conscious ignorance, closed-ended questions are the ways that you can actually find these answers to the questions of what you know and the category of known unknowns. The important thing for us in this course is going to be unknown unknown, which is where the idea for black swan also comes in, because it's completely unknown. We don't know when that will happen. Things we are not aware of or not understand. We don't know what we don't know, and unknown risk, meta-ignorance, open-ended exploration. I really don't know how to get answers to these things that I really don't know, right? Unknown unknown. So the idea of known knowns, things that you are aware of and understand. Unknown knowns, things you understand but are not aware of. Known unknowns, things you are aware of but don't understand. And the last one is things we are not aware of and not understand. So black swans, unknown unknowns, and longtails, often statistically characterized by longtail distributions, all of them, or cause longtail events. Because black swans dominate risk analysis, we discussed longtails to characterize this impactful events. Statistically, events widely regarded as black swans may be known unknowns to a few in the know people, but they are typically unknown unknowns. This is what I was emphasizing, why I was introducing this idea called unknown unknown, because it's typically not known to a large set of people. I'd be even surprised that if unknown unknowns are known to some people, but you can make an argument that, look, COVID, some people could have predicted it, or they could have used some a people movement, they could have used, there were companies also which did all of this, right? People movement, people taking flights, people falling sick. All of this data could have been used to understand that some outbreak is coming, but that is also limited to only a few set of people. These black swans on long-tail distributions, now let's connect it to our AI safety and ML safety idea, right? AIs eventually impact the world, maybe a long-tailed effect. We want models that can withstand and detect black swans, which are more likely to arise in the future when the world is changing rapidly and unexpectedly. This probably you understand better. And now, if we have multiple AI agents deployed in the future, this probably is now already here. Multiple agents are deployed, multiple chatbots are talking to each other, a drone is speaking to some other agent, all of that. And if the social power or command over resources is more long tail, the collective will be less able to rein in the most powerful agents. Extremistan is relevant for future ML deployment dynamics. That's the reason why I introduced this idea. It's necessary to know that for ML systems to be deployed and to have a larger effect, we need better mechanisms. Other existential risks can be viewed as sufficiently extreme long tail. Example, virus, asteroids are long tailed and pose existential risks. AI currently dominate risk estimates, right? And they will dominate more in the future as they become prevalent also, AI systems. The AI systems that are there today definitely has the question of meaning we have been speaking about it, it is penetrated into our society a lot. and it has a lot of risks that we need to be discussing and finding solutions for. Now, measuring vulnerability to unexpected events, right? So we need to, so we're a little bit of a philosophy, a little bit of a background. Now we are going to get into technical details. Okay, now how do I start measuring this, right? There must be some ways by which I should be able to measure this black swans, unexpected events, outliers, and I should be able to find a model, find how a model is doing well against these effects. We can measure vulnerability to long-tail events by simulating extreme or highly unusual events using stress test data sets. Right, so this is what we will continue thinking about. How do you generate these data sets? What does this data set mean? What are the different types of data sets that have been already created to study the robustness? To stimulate stressors, the stress test data set are from a different data generating process than the training data. Of course, if you understand ML, the training set and test set are different. In this case, the test set is going to be much more robust with these methods that we will see later, built with these methods that we will see soon. The overall goal is to make model performance not degrade as sharply in the face of extreme stressors. We're going to be building on this idea called ImageNet. So I thought I will introduce this idea. ImageNet is a project where they actually had images, visual database designed for use in visual object recognition. The goal was object recognition research. 14 million images have been hand annotated by the project to indicate what objects are pictured. And in at least 1 million of these images, bounding boxes are also provided. ImageNet contains more than 20,000 categories with a typical category as balloon, strawberry, pencil, pen, all of that. I'm sure if you have done anything relevant to images, you would have seen what ImageNet is. So now, thinking about the idea for robustness, how do I build the data sets, right? So that I can use this data sets to test the models and to argue that the models are robust. That's our goal, right? We saw all of this to understand what the background for robustness is, what are the ways by which the model can fail. Now we start building ideas on how to create these data sets to measure the robustness. ImageNet we saw. Now the ImageNet-C stands for corruption, right? And so this corruption idea is train on the clean images and test on these corrupted images, right? So, and this corruption, you can do it by different ways. You say that, oh, I'll add Gaussian noise, I'll have a short noise, I'll add an impulse noise, defocus blur, frosted glass blur. You will increase the brightness, contrast, elastic, pixelate, convert it into a JPEG, fog, frost, snow, zoom blur, motion. There are many of these, right? This example, I just went through the slide to tell you that there are many ways by which you can actually corrupt an image. In this case, use, so to say, in more so the Insta world types, you can say that I use a different filter types, right? Filter options in your camera to take different types of pictures, which can affect the way that the picture is taken. But in your phone or in the Insta, I think you're doing it to improve the picture or to add more fun to the picture in some sense. Whereas here we are trying to say that we will actually corrupt these images more so it should look away from the original image. Method to find these images which is away from the original image in some certain ways. So train on ImageNet, a test on ImageNet-C. So that's the idea. If you go back to the idea that was mentioned earlier, to simulate stressor, the stress test data sets are from a different different data generating process than the training data. That's the idea here. So you're going to test it on ImageC, train on ImageNet, test on ImageNet-C. And ResNet 50 is again, it's 50 layers, residual network, a type of CNN. ResNet 50 gets about 76% on the ImageNet. So that's to study these robustness methods. You want these data sets so that you can actually measure it across this data set and say that, look, we used actually this data set, ImageNet-C, and our accuracy is so much, our precision is so much, or our F1 score is so much, and therefore our methods are better. So later in the slides, I'll actually show you some tables which has all these values to compare also. Now the idea of R, right? ImageNet-R is here, which is to show the original ImageNet data when it was created. It was discouraged to have the renditions in them, right? What is rendition? Is that photos only, no painting, no drawings, etc., etc. Flickr images with a query as art, cartoon, graffiti, embroidery. I'll show you some example later. What these ImageNet-R images are. ImageNet rendition is a style robustness test with 30,000 images with different texture and styles. In this case, an annotator was shown the image and asked to pick a particular class of image from the shown images and discouraged for no drawings, no graffitis, all of that. It should be an image which is describing a strawberry, not a drawing of a strawberry, right? Picture of a strawberry compared to a drawing of a strawberry, right? Flickr images, sculptures, line drawings, tattoos, toys, video games, all of that. Train a model on the normal ImageNet and then test it on images, art, paintings, drawings, and sculptures. That's the idea. I think this idea will keep repeating, which is you train it on the base ImageNet model and then test it on the new data that we are generating. Here is how the actual annotation was done, which is which of these images contains at least one object type called crane, long definition, large, long-necked wading bird of marshes, and plains in many parts of the world. The annotator was given this information. It says for each of the following images, check the box and image if it. This is important because the ImageNet data source, when it was created, it was actually created without these rendition images. Explicitly avoided having these rendition images. At least one object on the type of crane. Select an image if it contains the object regardless of occlusions, other objects, and clutter or text in the scene. Only select images that are photographs, no drawings, no paintings, no graffitis, all that. If you look at, these are examples of ImageNet R data sets, right? If you look at the strawberry is what I was mentioning earlier. This is actually in this ImageNet data set, whereas this could be in the ImageNet R data set. Right? It could be a painting. It could be something like people had made it with paper and kept. A drawing, probably a cookie, and it's an image of somebody eating a strawberry. Whereas in the ImageNet strawberry, ImageNet data set, only these could have come as strawberry. Here is another one, this mining for hard examples and adversarial filtration. a way to create a stress test for models is to collect examples that fool an existing. So what we are going to see is that we saw until now ImageNet-C Corruption, R Rendition. We are going to see something called as ImageNet-A called Adversarial. A way to create a stress test for models is to collect examples that fool an existing strong model. Natural adversarial examples. Next slide, I'll show you some very interesting images which has actually fooled the models for what it is identifying that is in the image. One can mine for odd examples by having a model classify a large set of examples and create a test set of examples that it got wrong, which is also a good idea, right? You take the whole data set, you find out where the model is making mistakes, and take the images that it made mistakes and create that as a test set. Researchers have also done sometimes collected egregious errors, which is large errors, and where models are highly mistaken, such as high confidence misclassification, which is what I just now said also. ImageNet-A stands for adversarial. ImageNet adversarial contains naturally occurring examples that are difficult for ResNet 50 models to classify. ResNet 50 is the base model, and these examples are difficult for other new models too, including vision transformers, which demonstrate shared weaknesses across architectures. But let's look at some examples. This is actually a mushroom. It classified it as pretzel with 99% confidence. Dragonfly, it confidence is manhole cover. Fox squirrel, classified as sea lion. Bullfrog, classified as fox squirrel. Right. So I think this adversarial filtration, adversarial idea of creating data set is an extremely powerful method, right? Because it will help find the data sets and zoom into the error distribution. So you can actually get a view of why this is actually making a mistake. Just think about it, right? This is being, it's clearly a mushroom, but I don't know why it is doing it as pretzels, right? A dragonfly as a man cover. It will be very, very interesting to see how the error distributions of these adversarial filtration methods actually happen. So now moving on with the idea of ImageNet itself and trying to see more images in the vision models itself, generating these ideas for robustness. We can see ObjectNet. ObjectNet is again a data set that was created, collected to show objects from new viewpoints of new backgrounds. Right? Take the idea of a chair and then find different ways to show the chair. Chair is here, chair is here, chair lying down there. I don't know where a chair is here, there are chairs here. Chairs by rotation, chairs by background, chairs by viewpoint, and teapots. Okay, this is an example of teapots here, and t-shirts here, and t-shirts here lying. Whereas your ImageNet data will be just like this. Okay, I hope that helps. Idea is to generate ObjectNet. The idea of generating images which can have which we can use it for testing. ANLI. Now that we looked at images, let's look at text now. Right. ANLI is an adversarial natural language inference, which is what stands for ANLI data set. Instead of images that you're generating for adversarial testing, can you actually do text now? NLI is about determining whether a hypothesis is true, false, or undetermined given a context. The data set is created by crowd workers with the aim of fooling large-scale models. GPT-3 only gets about 40% accuracy, so I'm sure I'm sure the later models have different accuracies. depending on how those models have been generated. So what is the construction process for ANLI? The above text is a representation of the below image. Here is a writer. Right. Writer looks at writer creates a hypothesis, target label, there's a context. Writer uses the hypothesis and context to create a target label. That's what the writer gives as an output. An annotator writes a hypothesis, a model makes a prediction about the context hypothesis pair. If the model's prediction was correct, the annotator writes a new hypothesis. If the model was fooled, the context hypothesis pair is validated by other annotators. Simple idea how this ANLI data set was created. Writer, hypothesis, context, target label. The one is the creation writing examples. 2 is the get model feedback idea. So if you see here, this is given to the model. And hypothesis context pair is given to the model. Model predicts something which is coming here, and it is compared to the target label that was given. So if the target label comparison is provided, and if it is correct, a model is correct, it goes on to create the data set. If model is wrong, it goes to a different verifier who checks whether this context hypothesis pair was correct, and the validation with the model. If this verifier agrees that whatever was written is correct, then it's actually put back into the data set. If not, it is disregarded. It's just thrown out. Verify example and make the split. Make the split here means train, development, and test data sets. And then 4 is retrain model for the next round. So you use this and then put it in the next, put it in the model so it can be used for next cycle. Eventually, this model will come here in the next cycle. Right. So that is ANLI construction process. And in this way, people have generated this data which is being used for testing how robust the models are. Including models like GPT-3.